Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where I'm making a video in a new place today because kind of out and about today, trying to get a lot of things done. Today I had to go out and fill up the gas tank in the car and get it washed. And the nearest place which does that is here in the Toranomon area. So I'm sitting in a little play area next to, I guess the Swedish embassy happens to be behind me right now. A nice quiet place to make a video. I've got about an hour or so to make the video and do a couple of other things until the car is ready. Unfortunately, washing cars here in Tokyo is a little bit difficult. Few people here have a house with a driveway where they can wash a car. And you won't find many coin-operated car washes in the metro area. You have to kind of drive out to the suburbs to find those. So kind of stuck using the gasoline stations with car wash machines. And they're a little bit expensive and time-consuming, but it's got to get done from time to time, and cars kind of past due to be washed. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the subject of today's video. Today we're going to be talking about another Mamiya medium format camera. In this case, it's going to be the Mamiya 645, which I believe was introduced in Japan in 1975 and had a pretty long production run up until about 1987 or so. For those of you who are new to my channel, I sell vintage Japanese cameras in my online store, japanvintagecamera.com. I also have an Etsy store, and it is also called Japan Vintage Camera. And if you're interested in buying a camera like this Mamiya 645, please visit one of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. So, the Mamiya 645 is a professional quality camera used a lot in studios here in Japan, and also by what we call, I guess, prosumer photographers back in the day. And a really wonderful 120 or 220 roll film camera in 6x4 5 centimeter medium format. The camera primarily uses 120 roll film, though they had film inserts available for using 220 roll film. The 6x45 format is a good landscape format, or turned on the side, a good portrait format. I see a lot of these cameras mounted this way. I think if I remember right, when I was a private in the Army in basic training, we had to get these photos taken of us, I guess our class photos, and they used one of these cameras for their job. And even in those days, I was interested in photography, and of course I made a note of what the photographers were using. So I guess if it's good enough for military photographers to use, it should be good enough for pretty much anyone else. The 645, of course, was a system camera, and it was produced with a large number of accessories and things like that. You could get accessory prisms. This one here is fitted with an ordinary, I guess, plain eye-level prism system. You could get it with a pop-up waist level finder, similar to what you see in, say, Hasselblad cameras. And also a metered prism was available with a built-in light meter. And there were various winders and other attachments made for these cameras. Makes it for a really flexible medium format camera system, and more compact than the larger cameras, like say the RB67 or the Press series. Maybe about the same size as a say a Rolleiflex camera. Maybe a little bit shorter when you don't add the film back to it. But overall, a really good package, easy to handle and quite easy to use. We'll go ahead and take a look at the features, controls, and functions of the Mamiya 645. And starting on the top here, of course it's going to be a lot different from a regular medium format camera. We just on the top have a hot shoe for mounting your flash gun. And on the back of the prism we have the switch here, which you have to push in and turn. And this allows you to lift off the prism like so. And I believe the focusing screens here were interchangeable, and I think Mamiya made 4 or 5 different focusing screens for this camera for different uses. We have some electrical contacts here on the top, and we have an electrical contact here on the prism. This one is of course for the flash hot shoe. The other ones here are for supplying power to the light meter and such. Putting on the prism is quite simple. You just put it back on like so, or at least I hope I'm putting it back on right. There it goes. Alright, on the back here we have the viewfinder eyepiece, kind of a large eyepiece, and I think Mamiya, at least in other cameras, and in this one too, they had a diopter adapter which you could thread in. Also things like magnified finders, as well as a rubber eye cup so you don't scratch your glasses if you happen to wear glasses. On this side of the camera, we have a few of the important controls here. First, we have the film counter located up on this side here. We have a red light here. These are usually a light button which supplies power to like a light circuit inside the meter prism, so you can actually read what the readings are when it's dark. Otherwise, you know, usually these meters have a window. Metered prisms have a window which allows the ambient light to come through and illuminate the readings inside the viewfinder, but if there's no ambient light and you're shooting at night or whatever, you need a separate light source. We have a couple of different shutter releases. On the top here we have a shutter release, and we have another one on the front. The one on the front here has a lock switch, and also it's threaded for a standard cable release. Here we have the film winding dial or lever. You can pop out this handle here. This is a 6x4 format camera. It requires a kind of a short stroke here to operate. Very convenient. On the front here we have a mirror lockup lever, and this reduces vibration in the camera. When you are taking a photograph, you want to make a really precise shot, you can lock up the mirror. Of course, this is only convenient if you have the camera mounted to a tripod, because of course you have to be able to see what you're shooting at when you're looking through the viewfinder, and if you lock up the mirror you can't see anything. And we have a multiple exposure release lever located here on the side. One thing to remember about these cameras is that they have an electronically controlled shutter and need a battery to operate, and if you wind it and fire it, sometimes the battery will stick. I mean, not the battery, the mirror will stick in the upright position. You can release the mirror by using this lever on the side here. If we go over to the other side here, we have a couple of flash sync sockets here for a bulb flash or for a more modern strobe flash. Here we have the shutter speed dial, and on this one, the earlier versions, you had a shutter speed range up to 1/500th of a second. And as I said before, it's electronically controlled, and therefore it's very accurate. One problem that I sometimes have with some of these larger cameras with the mechanical shutter is that the weight of the shutter mechanism and shutter blades or shutter curtains can be quite heavy, and these can cause some inaccuracy in the shutter speeds over time. These cameras which have an electronically controlled shutter are very accurate when it comes to shutter speeds. So you don't have to worry about say the shutter overexposing or underexposing, so long as you've set the correct speed. If you like to shoot slide film, which I do from time to time, though slide film in medium format is a little bit expensive, this is a wonderful camera for that. There were AE prisms made for the 645 series, which allowed for, I guess, aperture priority or was it aperture shutter priority? I have to check that out to be sure. Automatic operation, and it was accurate enough to allow you to use slide film. If you're using any of the film which doesn't have a lot of, I guess, latitude with it, namely slide film, I recommend using a camera with a built-in meter if you can find one, or a quality handheld light meter. On the front of the camera here, of course, we have the lens. This is the standard lens which came on the 645 system. This is a 80mm f2.8 Mamiya Secure lens. Sometimes I see these with the optional faster f1.9 lens. A variety of lenses were made for this camera, from a wide angle to telephoto length, and all were really wonderful performers. By the mid-70s, Mamiya was producing very fantastic quality glass, and I think that the lenses rival, say, this Secure 80mm f2.8 is probably going to work just as well as a far more expensive Carl Zeiss planar, which you would find in the Hasselblad C series. But this entire camera with all the accessories costs about the same as one of these lenses, as the Hasselblad prices have kind of taken off in recent years. Changing the lenses is quite simple. You just pull back on this button here, and that allows you to remove the lens and install it. As you can see, this is an SLR camera with an SLR mirror in it, and I've heard a lot of people say that this is probably one of the best cameras for people who are interested in beginning medium format photography. If you like an SLR style camera, personally I think the TLR cameras are probably better suited to beginners, because they have less bells and whistles, and the learning curve is a little bit shorter. But if you're interested in the more, I guess, professional style medium format camera. This one is probably going to be easier to use than something like a 645 or the Hasselblad series. And probably even easier than the Mamiya Press series, which is kind of a bare bones, very simple camera system. Moving to the bottom of the camera, we have the battery chamber here, which you turn this way and that pops open the door. You can see this 6-volt battery. I have a 4LR44 battery fitted in here right now. Mamiya recommends it use 4SR44 battery because the silver oxide batteries offer more consistent performance, especially toward the end of the battery life, whereas the alkaline batteries tend to lose voltage gradually over time, and this can affect the accuracy of the meter, though it doesn't seem to have much effect on the accuracy of the shutter. On the back of the camera here, there's kind of the slide-on adapter here, which probably had a rubber eye cup attached to it at one time. It's pushed in downward position right now, and that's kind of interfering with the film door. So if I want to load film in the car, I kind of have to, in the camera, I have to push this up. Kind of tricky for someone who's never seen one of these cameras to load film into them. It has kind of this switch here, but when you push it, it doesn't do anything. It's kind of a secondary trick into opening it, and that's pushing. Here, where you would put your film card, push this down and like so, and the door pops open. And inside here you can see the film insert, which you use to load the film. And you can see the film chamber on the camera. These film inserts are quite easy to load once you get used to them. I have kind of a dummy roll of film on here because I wanted to demonstrate the sound of the shutter and all that. Loading these rolls is not that difficult. If you look on here, you can kind of see the start arrow. You can kind of see the layout. I have a take-up spool on one side and the film spool on the other. And of course you thread the take-up spool, wrap the film around the rollers on the front, and then you just kind of turn the dials here until the arrow on the film lines up with this start emblem. And once that's ready to go, you just open the film door and push the film in like so till it locks in place. And you can see this one says 120. Another insert was made which allowed you to use 220 film. If you buy one of these cameras, you may find it has one type or the other. So depending on the type of insert you have, you'll have to get film which matches that insert. You can buy extra inserts, and they come in little plastic boxes, and you can preload them and put them in your camera bag. And that way when you need to change film, it's just as simple as going like so and then closing the door. Anyway, that's it for my video about the Mamiya 645 medium format camera. I had this one listed and it sold yesterday, so it's not available anymore. But I'm expecting to get a few more cameras like this in the near future, and I hope to have them listed next week. So if you're interested, please visit one of my stores. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'll be posting a larger variety of cameras, lenses, and other things soon. If you'd like to see these, please come back and check out my stores. I'll also be doing videos about a wider variety of cameras and such in the future, and if you'd like to see those, please subscribe and come back. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.